Business Brain, episode 763 for Casual FridAI, June 19th. That's Juneteenth, of course, and National Martini Day 2026. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Hang on. Let me fix that.
Good.
Let's just get rid of that. There we go. Should we start the episode over?
No,
we're good.
Why not?
We'll get it right.
Man.
Mistakes,
in public.
tuition. That's right.
Yeah,
we are building in public.
That's good, Tech.
Yeah, National Martini Day, Juneteenth.
That's awesome. You know, I live near a town called Martinez where the martini was invented.
No kidding.
Absolutely.
I didn't realize where the name came from.
Yeah. Okay, it's only about 20 minutes from me. It's on the water, yeah, that's where the martini. yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Who knew? I mean, you do. You knew.
Knew something new. It's one of my fun facts.
I like that. Greetings and welcome to Business Brain, the show where we take some ideas, some from you, some from us. We use them to tune our business brains so that we can each keep on living our charmed lives. Our sponsors for this episode include oneskin.co/brain, where you can go and get 15% off of OneSkin with code BRAIN. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And also save 30% on Bitdefender Ultimate Small Business Security when you go to bitdefender.com/brain. We'll talk about that in a little bit, too. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And I'm Shannon Jean. I'm still in Northern California.
Yeah,
Happy to be here on Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Happy Friday AI. Yeah.
Hey, I don't know if we're last week. Well, we're recording this on Monday, but a couple days ago, so Anthropic came out with a new model, a new LLM model called Fable 5. I don't know, 1 through 4 we didn't get to see, but it was based on their.
No, we did get to see it because Opus is 4.
Oh, I see. Fable 5.
Right? I thought. Sense. Well,
maybe,
and
I could be right.
And
I
it's
think you're right.
not. Fable isn't the model. The model is Mythos.
Mythos, but Fable is the Mythos with guardrails. Am I right?
Fable is the guardrails that sit between you and me and Mythos or SAT. I don't know what's going to happen by the time this episode comes out. So
we'll see. We're moving quick, but it didn't. It wasn't on the market long before. I guess there was some kind of exploit or something that remove some of those guardrails. And so there were some steps. I don't know all the details of it, but between the government and Anthropic. And so they took it off. And now there's a note everywhere that says you can't use Fable while they figure this out.
It's just turned off. That's right.
Gone. Yeah. And you made a comment earlier about hitting some limits and some things.
I ran into, so the Mythos, the model Mythos has been discussed for a while. And Anthropic had chosen not to release it to the wild initially because they wanted to give other companies, like some of the bigger tech companies and I believe even the government, the chance to use it.
Correct. That's what I understand too.
Yeah, to like poke at their own holes in their own security. The issue with Mythos and Fable again is just the guardrails in front of it. The issue is its strength. It is relentless, Shannon.
Yes.
I had the example that I'm happy to share is because I did hit the cybersecurity guardrails, but I was not trying. I was just doing my thing. And we have an internal engine here at Backbeat, and I wanted to populate it with some data from a third party source. And we have an account with this third party source, and I know they have an API. And so I thought, okay, great. I'm just going to essentially using Claude code. In fact, it wasn't essentially, it was literally using Claude code. I said, hey, I want you to, we're going to figure this out and we're going to use their API. I was like, okay, great. Go get an API key from them. I'm like, yeah, I already got that. And it said, great. Before I spec out, I was going to use Fable to spec out. Actually, I did use Fable to spec out things. And then I was going to use Sonnet to build because I've learned that you don't need to use the highest model for everything. That was my experiment with my $20 a month plan. I'm now back to the $100 a month plan because I couldn't live like that. But you can live like that. It's if you use the right models for things. And so I had it building this thing, and it's like, great. Before I build the spec for this, I want to make sure that we can get the data that we think we can get. It had ingested the documentation for the API, but it was like, give me the key and we'll do this. And so great, fine. I put the key in where you're supposed to and securely and all that stuff. And it wrote some script. It came back and it said, most of the endpoints work, but the main one that we want it keeps erroring out. It says you don't have access to that. You need to email them and tell them to turn it on.
Oh.
I have very quick support with this particular company.
Okay.
And literally within minutes had someone that was looking into it for me and said, oh, yeah, that's part of our $1,500 a month plan.
Oh.
You don't you don't have that right now. And so I told, I just gave that response back to Fable, and it was like, oh yeah, that's a non-starter. It was like, but you can get this data off of their website, right? And I was like, yep. And it was like, great. Log into that website in Chrome and then give me access. I want to take a look at some things. And it kept going. And 20, maybe 30 minutes later, it came back and it's like, great news. There's actually a private API that this company has that is used to populate the website when you visit. And it's like, so I've just specced out the entire model using that. You'll need to make sure that you refresh the key every now and then, because it's not like a straight API key. It's your login token, and it was like, it's going to be a little weird. And then it said, it asked two questions. One was some sort of procedural question. The other was, you got to make sure you're comfortable doing this. It might or might not go against their terms of service. It's like, I didn't research that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this model is crazy. And immediately after that prompt, it was like, this model has run into cybersecurity, issues. I'm dumbing down to Opus or whatever, which really isn't a dumb model.
No,
but it is relentless at stuff. So I can see if you pointed it at something that was actually, really mattered, it would get the job done. And that's the concern. Yeah,
that's right. It totally makes sense. And I get that part of it. And I get I guess it's if I use a similar or like an analogy of like search. Yeah. Because you know that if you search in Google, they don't show you everything. Number one, you see all that paid stuff they show first.
Sure.
But even like if they've made a decision that, certain sites are bad actors or certain sites are whatever, we're not going to show those results. So it's by omission, right? And they're controlling they're controlling data, which is their prerogative. It's their site. It's free. Whatever they're going to show, they're going to show. And there's alternative. You can go use, other search, right? You could use whatever, DuckDuckGo. You can use Bing. You can use on and on and on, different search. But in AI, who decides what it will show, how much it will let you do? And I listened to an interesting argument about, because one of the things I did not know this until I read this article about Anthropic is they are heavily pushing for government control of AI, heavily. And
there is an argument, and it would be an argument, and we're not going to have it right now, but there's an argument to be said that the Anthropic of the major AI players, Anthropic are the good guys. Like it in a sense, like they're trying to be responsible and always have.
Yes. Yeah. But there's also the argument that, again, we're not having this argument, but there is a comment that the reason they want that government control is to block out other players.
To gatekeep, of course.
To gatekeep, especially open source, right? Which is definitely going to be something.
DeepSeek and things like that.
Yes, all the open source ones. And it was just an interesting way. I hadn't thought about it this way before until I read this article and listened to this this discussion about who controls the data and where do you get to go, and if it's I also think it's an argument for a different kind of AI that lives things that live locally, like OpenClaw or other things like that, or things that Apple are I think working on that give you more control of your personal AI and things like that. And that the models that are out there now, the way it works, because I guess in Fable, you have to, I don't know if you had to agree to additional terms and conditions, but they keep your searches, your prompts and everything for 30 days to be able to look back and check, I guess, on this kind of thing. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing it to make sure that their guardrails are acting the way they intend them to, right?
Yeah.
Because they can't know what they don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. It just got me thinking about okay, how is this going to shake out? I'm not sure Anthropic are the good guys. I don't know enough about them. I think some of their founders, some of the stuff I read, I heard it referred to as they feel like they're midwifing a god by building this out.
Yeah, there's
I thought that was kind of interesting.
From what I understand, they are a very private company in these ways. Yeah.
I say, yeah. So it's just an interesting discussion about number one, how much of your data do you give it when it can keep it for a while and what happens to it, right? And thinking about that. And we're going to talk more about kind of private and localized AI for your business, so you don't have to give up stuff that you're not comfortable with, but you could still use the power of it to help you run your business. I think that's a really interesting angle that I think Apple will lean into a lot, I
don't know that Apple's leaning into it on the business side. I think
that's true.
I think for the personal side
they are. Yeah. So it's just kind of interesting.
Where my comment about Anthropic being the good guy, and there's a whole fascinating history where every AI company that exists is really the byproduct of a previous one. It started with Google, then OpenAI, and then Anthropic, right? Where each of them started because they didn't trust the people that were running the last one.
Exactly right.
Right.
Yeah.
And Anthropic actually had Claude ready before OpenAI had ChatGPT ready and decided to wait because they didn't want to unleash this thing on the world without more guardrails.
I see. Yeah.
And then OpenAI said, here's ChatGPT. And so it was about 6 months later that Anthropic finally put Claude out. But Claude was ready first, which is kind of mind-blowing when you realize. So that's kind of where that mindset, like they are trying to do no harm.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
At some level.
Yeah.
At some level. I'm not going to give them too much credit here.
No. It's kind of like it's kind of weird. But I mean, the thing that Claude nailed was, focusing on programming first and other stuff. It just became such,
they had to. They had to because OpenAI had won the chatbot. Thing. Right. So they had to pivot, well, not pivot, but specialize.
Come and do something different. Yeah.
And then via that specialization have sort of now gone a little broader. But
But let us know what you think. Feedback at businessbrain.show. Tell us your thoughts on this AI that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, for sure. We have more about AI to talk about here, and we will do that. First, we want to tell you about our sponsors. And there's a scam hitting small businesses right now that I want to talk about a little. The idea is that somebody emails one of your team members, right? And they used your tone, right? It seems like the email comes from you. It says there's an urgent wire transfer and also says, hey, look, keep this quiet until it's done. That's AI email cloning, right? And it's being used to drain small business bank accounts right now. And if this sounds like science fiction, well, I promise you it isn't. And I think we all know that it's not. Building the charmed life of an entrepreneur means protecting every piece of it. Your client data, your team, your reputation, right? Your accounts. And that's why our sponsor, Bitdefender, is worth your attention. Bitdefender is a global leader in cybersecurity, and their ultimate small business security is purpose-built for businesses with 25 or fewer employees who don't have a dedicated IT department. You get AI-powered scam protection trained specifically on small business attack patterns, the kind that catch phishing attempts, right? Fake messages and malicious links before anyone on your team ever sees them. Add in dark web monitoring to flag if your data shows up somewhere it shouldn't, password management, unlimited VPN for your remote folks, right? And one clean, easy dashboard to run it all. It's outstanding. You got to check this out. Keep your small business safe with Bitdefender Ultimate Small Business Security and save 30% when you go to bitdefender.com/brain. That's bitdefender.com/brain for 30% off. Check it out. I think you're going to really like it. And our thanks to Bitdefender for sponsoring this episode. And we entrepreneurs are pretty good at optimizing everything except ourselves, right? We'll spend hours finding just the right tool, the right system, the right process, and then slap the same drugstore moisturizer on our face that we've been using since college, right? That's not the charmed life. That's just inertia. It happens. Well, we can make some changes. I've been using our sponsor OneSkin's Face and Eye for a couple of months now, as I've mentioned, and what changed my mind is that it's not just another skincare product, right? Most skincare sits on the surface. OneSkin's OS1 peptide actually goes after the root cause. As we age, skin cells stop functioning the way that they used to, right? The scientists call them zombie cells. And that's what's driving the fine lines, the loss of firmness, the dullness. OS1 was specifically engineered to address those cells directly. I even used AI to compare photos taken like 6 weeks apart, right? Smoother forehead, it found, more even texture, firmer under my eyes. I have spreadsheets with less compelling data than that, right? Just last week, I used OneSkin's Face SPF while I was in Los Angeles, and it too is fantastic. No greasy feeling, no residue, and you're getting that OS1 protection and mineral SPF in one shot. That's protecting against future damage while reversing past summers. Backed by 4 peer-reviewed clinical studies and over 10,000 5-star reviews. Born from over a decade of longevity research, OneSkin's OS1 peptide is proven to target the visible signs of aging, helping you unlock your healthiest skin now and as you age. For a limited time, try OneSkin with 15% off using code BRAIN at oneskin.co/brain. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code BRAIN. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please mention the show so you can support the show and tell them we sent you. Go check it out, oneskin.co/brain. I think you're going to like it at least as much as I do. And our thanks to OneSkin for sponsoring this episode. We got an email. We mentioned either last week or the week before. I can't remember, Shannon, because we packed them all together before I traveled. We were talking about data centers and location of data centers, and I speculated or mused. Speculation was the wrong thing. I threw out what I thought was a crazy idea of like, why don't put them underwater? Listener David wrote into feedback@businessbrain.show and said, hey guys, you were just talking about the possibility of putting data centers underwater. It seems like you aren't the only ones thinking about this. And he sent us a link to a Gizmodo article about how China has just turned on the world's first underwater data center. So there you
Smart.
go.
Yeah. Makes total sense, man.
It does. Yeah.
Yep. Keep it cool.
Keep it
awesome.
cool. Yeah. I mean, you got to get power in and out of there and all that stuff. But sure. I mean, figure it out. Go.
Hey, let's talk about real quick. This term MCP, model context protocol?
Model context
protocol. So I'm learning more about this. Instead of having to have an API or have some other weird kind of connection, some of the services that I use, one of them for my reseller mastermind community, I got an email that says, hey, we have this new MCP. All you need is this link. You can share that in your connections. I use Claude. There's a connection setting. Go in there, paste that URL, log in. Kind of like sometimes when you give access to your bank account, if you're connecting like Venmo or whatever, it is an intermediary that kind of logs in. And in this case, actually, I think it just logged in directly. And it gave my AI access to all the analytics, all the backend data of my community, which is super helpful. And I love it.
So that the point isn't lost. The beauty of the model context protocol is that it is platform agnostic, which is a fancy way of saying it will work with all of the AIs out there. You pick your favorite. It is a protocol that is a standard, and it's an open standard. So your service could work with ChatGPT. I mean, you chose Claude, but you didn't have to. You're not locked into that. And
they all have
that's the power here. Yeah. Well, one of the powerful things. The other powerful thing is no longer do you have to like send it screenshots or let it log in with your browser, which is like if you want to find a good way to burn tokens really fast, have your AI control your browser. I know. It's awesome. It's awesome,
but
this is a way more efficient way of doing it because they just get to talk directly to each other, just like an API would, and so there's no misinterpretations, and it's as efficient as it could possibly be. Yeah.
It's a game changer for me. I connected it to my newsletter platform and talking back and forth and like reviewing the analytics and changes over the last 6 months and what to do in this case. And I could just go back and forth and ask questions, and then it will actually help me implement the changes. So it had certain permissions, and it would come up and I would get prompted, say, well, it would, of course, it'd say, open it in Chrome and I can take control of the site and I can create this template for you and we can do this. Super helpful for me, man.
That's great.
It's amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
I actually had it on the list today to talk about the title of my note was Claude Cowork is quickly becoming my primary email agent. And it's all about MCPs. Because I use Fastmail for my email.
Okay. Yeah.
And Fastmail recently, not a month or two ago, maybe more, released their own first-party MCP. Other people had kind of built layers of MCPs that were unofficial. They released their own. And, I can say, like, the screenshot that I put in the thing for the example is I just wrote, hey, to Claude Cowork, I said, take a look at my Fastmail inbox and summarize the top 10 most important things that you find my attention would be best spent looking at next.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And it did. It was like, you got to do this, Dave. Like there's money waiting, essentially.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love it. And it looked through 800 emails to like figure that out, and then was like, all right, you're good to go. So, and then I could choose to have it. I don't. It doesn't have permission to send anything, but it has permission to create and save drafts.
Yeah, that's what I love that too. Yeah. I think that's great. And then you just go in your draft folder, and there's a bunch of stuff waiting for you already.
It's waiting. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
That's great. So it is. It's a fascinating thing. Hey, Shannon, we've gotten out of our habit here. We need to talk about this episode's big takeaway, my friend. So we talked about generally AI censorship. I don't know that there was anything there.
I don't know.
Then we've got MCPs. That's what we talked about.
I think the MCP is the big takeaway because if you haven't used it, it's so easy to implement. You don't need a secret token like API and all this kind of stuff. And and like Dave said, it's platform agnostic. It goes anywhere, any AI you want to use it for. I think that's my vote for the big takeaway.
I agree. Yeah, they're easy to implement, and you can connect your AI to probably more things than you realize.
Yeah. I would add that's one of the things you could do is ask your AI, does this service have an MCP that I could connect to? And
here's all the services that I use. Do I have what to talk to me here?
Yeah. What am I missing? What am I missing here?
Why don't I build an MCP? When I say why don't I build, why don't I work with Claude Code to build?
Yeah.
That goes without saying.
A locator.
No, why don't I build an MCP for our internal podcast manager thing? So if our hosts want to use MCP to, if they want to use their AI to control their lives, why wouldn't I want to make that easy for you?
Yeah. I think that's great. I love it. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah, that's going on the list. All right, this is great. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Fun stuff. Feedback at businessbrain.show. Make sure you, let us know. And thank you, David, for your email about the underwater data centers. Fun stuff. Great. Woo! See you next week.
See you guys.